even product that makes it through the process requires recycling. And um, uh, you solve the problem in two ways. You avoid failure, so you reduce the amount of recyclable. But at the end, there is a whole industry of food recycling. Once you are on terra firma, where once you are on the ground, there is another problem related to recycling food packaging, food, you know, unused food, and so on.
Yeah,
Eh,
that is true. And we are mainly focusing on trying to eliminate that waste, but that is something we I do want to scale into of making sure we are producing sustainable outputs and building sustainable things for Innovite Solutions. So
Exactly, because now you can go down the road of what packaging the food is in the cold chain, for instance. And if the packaging is not recyclable or it has a large carbon footprint, it's a problem. And for instance, globally, not only in Europe, and that includes US, there are packaging regulation rules now where the companies producing and using the package have to account for the carbon footprint and eventually for the cost of disposal of the package. So the cost of disposal, which is now at the end user,
mhm.
gets translated or transformed or handed over to the producer, which has to account for better packaging. And that includes that becomes more complex from what I understand, especially with cold foods.
Yeah, that does seem very complex. And to really get that proper packaging, maybe it's maybe biodegradable, or maybe it may be through some innovative product. Like I know in the blue economy, seaweed is a big topic. How people
Hmm.
use seaweed for a ton of different products. So maybe there are some innovative ways people can find on how to reinvent packaging to build a sustainable earth and build a less polluted earth.
Right, biodegradable or at least with shorter lifespan in the once they end up in the in the waste heap, right? So we what you're describing so far, it's a very big interconnection between the supply chain, the mode of transportation, especially sea transportation, which is a major or if not the most major way of volume transportation, right? To collection of data, we move to the data and getting correct data. Understanding the infrastructure, you mentioned it, it's very important. So switching to the infrastructure, I would think that everything runs on some form or another of electricity. We usually produce cold through compression of gases, so that's how electricity is needed to run the compressors.
Right.
Uh, have you covered any so, okay, since electricity is sort of the building block, if you burn fossil fuels, for instance, you have a large carbon footprint that you pretty much cannot avoid.
Right.
Have you looked at the energy part and what anything you would like to share?
Yes. Well, I have looked at the energy part, and really the main form of energy that I'm heavily interested in and really pushing for the development of is small nuclear reactors, because those can bring a low carbon footprint, and they are super effective in energy. But the biggest hurdle in nuclear reactors is one, the investment, and then the safety around those small modular reactors. Because if it gets in the wrong hands, if it's not properly disposed of, it can really leave an actual bad sustainable footprint, and it can actually be bad for the environment if it's not cared for properly or if it's not in the right hands. So really navigating the compliance around those reactors and navigating, excuse me, the huge hurdles for those reactors.
Have you seen the use of reactors in on commercial ships or commercial transportation?
You know,
Because they have, from a safety viewpoint, they have I think reactors got on the submarines from 1950s.
mhm,
So we have more than half a century of data on their reliability and their safety.
true. And the thing is really the compliance piece and building with that. So you have to ensure that it is compliant with the already standards that are in place with the research that has been going about with this. So really understanding how to actually build, and the cost isn't cheap for these reactors, I must say. So understanding how to navigate those aspects of building with these, and also developing a long-term plan, because I don't believe immediately I will be able to build with these reactors, because the science behind it and just the
Right.
complexity in the cost. So realizing how I can grow from that, maybe I have to transition to batteries, but making sure I use the batteries properly, dispose of them properly, and things like that until I can build to a more sustainable long term build.
Actually, you brought a very important point in sustainability. We define sustainability as a trifecta: people, planet, and profits.
Mhm.
And I would think, going into this cold chain, I would think that the cost of uh, waste is factor in the business case. So let's say you lose 10% in the transportation over the sea. That's what the end consumer ends up paying for. You're
Right.
paying for. So usually we look in sustainability, and we have maybe not tons, but a lot of people saying sustainability is costly. Why it's costly? Because we need to spend money to change. We need
Mhm.
to change now. We need to be more careful with cold chain. We need to be more careful with transportation. We need to use technology, which is not cheap. IoT you mentioned, or nuclear, even more expensive, to uh, to to create a different business model and a different business case for cold chains. Have you did you come across this kind of problems related to, or questions related to profitability in supply chain and sustainability?
I have, and I do think the R&D costs initially will be a more investment than the profits actually seen. But that's why I have changed my business model to encompass some more IP. So only focusing on the cold chain piece, but building other IP to help support um, durable and high stakes environments can bring us to proper profitability more. So the expensive piece of sustainability is it is increasingly expensive, but the cost is coming down and investment is coming into it. So I do believe it can outweigh, because if you are saving so much money on the losses, you may want to invest it into that sustainable aspect of.
Right. From a financial, if you look from a CFO, Chief Financial Officer viewpoint, they'll say, I have to spend money now, which shows in my books its cost. And this is it's not only sustainability, it's also for strategy. So I have to spend money on changing the processes, changing the people, training the people, maybe hiring more people to support the new technology, or the new methodology, right, in sustainability, versus future profits.
Yeah.
And we face this question time and time again. It's like, okay, is it profitable? Yes. Is it profitable tomorrow? No. Well, I need to show on the profit this quarter. I need to go to Wall Street and show them that I'm profitable.
Right.
So let's move it to the next quarter.
Right. But if they really look about the long-term value of sustainability, I believe the initial cost of investing in training, investing in SOPs, investing in technologies that can help you be sustainable can have a longer term value and a more long term value than not doing it at all. You got to think about what can I do in 5 years? I may not see the profits immediately, but I may see it in 5 years. I may see it in 2 years if I do it properly. So, really looking at that long term cost is very important for business people in sustainability or operating just any business when you're looking at the topic of sustainability.
Right, and we find for instance, one of the leverage or lever it's competition.
Mm-hmm.
So on terms of competitive positioning, in other words, if your competitors does it, would you lose market share or even crash the company?
Yeah.
So there is a cost of not doing as well that it's built in. And as I said at the beginning, when you look at digital transformation, seems to be happening, but very slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And my prediction is going to be slower and slower for a while, and then suddenly will pick up
Mm-hmm.
because going back to analytics and AI and going back to this, you need good quality data. And now AI will show really quickly that you don't have good data.
Very quickly.
Yeah, few minutes.
That's true.
So, uh, how we build a more resilient, okay, the building on this model, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many companies are announcing net zero, right? Zero emissions of greenhouse gases. They come up with all kind of sometimes greenwashing, sometimes more than other credible reports that are going to do it and how. But we face this problem, I think, as much as the maritime and the global maritime transportation as we have it more recently with data centers, right? We say AI consumes a lot of power. Is it going to pay back? Is it going to return and help sustainability in the future?
Right.
And based on this, uh, how do you see a more resilient infrastructure? This is a big question because we're trying to boil the ocean, the way they say.
Well, I do see more resilient infrastructure, not just as big infrastructure, if you think about it. If we have
Mhm.
maybe more compressed infrastructure that can be more reactive, that can do more precise things, maybe we can get things done better. So, infrastructure, like I said, maybe investing in drones or investing in other technologies, IoT devices, digital twins to build that resilient infrastructure in your warehouse or in your operating in your business. And also, I would say building proper teams and building proper SOPs and making sure you are training your employees on how to operate. Because if you don't have human capital or if you don't have proper employees who know how to use the tools or do what you are asking them to do or reaching to do, then you won't do it. So
Uh, uh,
really
uh,
focusing on training and really looking at the difference between scale. Just because something's big doesn't mean the infrastructure is good.
no, it just means historically we build it that way, right?
Right.
It's like you look at the old building and we build it without air conditioning because historically we didn't have air conditioning, so we didn't need to provide for it. And now, do you tear it down? Do you put air conditioning, right? it's a different case. And in some way, retrofitting the maritime industry seems to be a great and a huge undertaking, especially that there are other factors in play right now with maritime chokeholds, uh, delays, and so on, which create another level of sustainability challenges, right?
And national security risk.
Absolutely. Or, or or starting with the risk and then talking about sustainability, right?
Mhm.
Because it's I would say national security and national emergency. Many countries are, for instance, now reducing the amount of energy they consume
Mhm.
because they are afraid they are going to run out of fossil fuels.
Right.
And that, by the way, creates an industry or an opening for renewables and nuclear, as we discussed.
Mhm.
So,
And I would say, back just to piggyback a little bit on the infrastructure piece, imagine if we didn't have those big container ships transporting everything that we may need from that certain region through the Strait of Hormuz. I'll say it, the oil. So imagine if we had smaller vessels to transport
mhm,
that. The blockade wouldn't happen, or we wouldn't be going through certain crises, or having
mhm.
different infrastructure and not solely depending on the outdated large container ships. So,
Right. Well, shipping or navigating, it's probably as old as humanity, right? We found people moving between islands in Australia, right, in that area, uh, during the uh, let's call it the primitive era, right? The people were just coming up to speed, and they started to use the ocean as transportation.
mhm.
So uh, definitely, how do you see this interplay between national security and sustainability? Because
Mhm.
on one hand, if you look at sustainability regulations, the military it's actually not held to the same standards as commerce for reasons, right? You cannot build sustainable weapons or sustainable. It's not the first priority, and well, it can be a major priority in the civilian industry, in the commercial industry. How do you see this issue of national security? Can we do something a little bit for being more sustainable?
Definitely. And oftentimes with the military, when it comes to, or the Department of Defense or Department of War, when you think of sustainability, they often think it may get in the way of what
Right.
the goal I'm trying to achieve. It may take too long. It may not work as good as the original. So building products and building pieces that will work as good as the original or even better, and having a more efficient output, having a more sustainable output could be very good. And I would say, let's think about it. Wearables, military people have a lot of clothes, not a lot of clothes, but the military buys a lot of wearables.
Right.
And the Department of War buys a lot of wearables. So maybe integrating some sustainable technology into those wearables
Hmm.
that can be equally as good or maybe even better, more comfortable than the old standard non-sustainable wearables. So
Clear.
that's one piece of technology that I can see.
So start small and build it from there. Don't try to have the whole piece. But that's a very good advice actually. And yes, it's definitely a very complex problem you addressing, and it seems that you went in almost every aspect of it.
Yes, sir.
It's very interesting for how old is your startup? If I may ask, how long ago you graduated?
Well, I graduated literally 3 weeks ago, but
Okay.
my startup is about a year or two old. I'm also in accelerator called the BX6, the Blue Accelerator. It's part of the Blue Institute. It's a very large and well respected maritime um, accelerator for startups. And it's
I
also part of the American Made Network. So that's where my national security piece comes in, where I'm getting connections and things like that to be sure I am building resilient infrastructure for national security.
that's that's definitely refreshing. I'm happy to hear that we connect national security and sustainability. Um, from my recollections, we have maybe over 100 people interviewed. You are the first one to bring the two together. But before we move on, one big topic, and what would you advise your colleagues that
Mhm.
want to move to sustainability in supply chain or sustainability in general? It can be, it's a very large topic. And also, how do you see people in transition? We see a lot of people that mid-career, they decide to go to sustainability for different motivations. They found that environment is important.
You're right.
They find a moral call. They find opportunity to develop a new career.
I would definitely recommend people doing research on what type of sustainability and how you actually want to leave an impact and how that looks like for you, whether that's an entrepreneurial endeavor, whether that's more project focused, or whether that's really transitioning your whole career, because it is a big change and it is a hard battle that we are trying to overcome. But I would be sure to make sure you have the proper intentions. Don't just go into it for the money. Go into it being goal oriented, being KPI um, interested to be sure these sustainable outputs are being tracked. And I know a lot of places, your warehouses that you work in, or your careers that you work in, your corporate jobs, they may not want to transition to sustainability. So you may have to transition some of your own aspirations to entrepreneurial endeavors or projects and collaborate. Make sure you collaborate and network with other people.
That's absolutely true, and this collaboration involves developing new skills, right, in sustainability. How do you personally came across from? I understand you studied for supply chain. What brought you to combine the supply chain and sustainability?
Really, it was the cold chain aspect. I was seeing how much loss was experienced in the cold chain. It was really passionate. I really got passionate about it and said, I can solve this problem. I have visions to be sustainable and to really solve these issues. So I was looking at what issues can I solve, and I realized my background, my education in supply chain really connected well with cold chain logistics. So I really paired those two with sustainability and really to grow sustainability initiatives and really to reduce cold chain failure.
Right. So you took a, I won't say very pragmatic because that will be only part of what you are doing, but you approach it both as pragmatic and forward looking or long term looking, right?
Right.
Because you definitely address in order of magnitude is probably the largest problem from a transportation viewpoint, from a logistics viewpoint, which is as we said a few times, is the volume that goes through the seas, and out of this volume, it's cold chain.
Right. I agree.
So, well, would like you back with a progress report.
Of course.
Are you attracting many people already with your startup? Do they come and join you?
I am.
I'm
I
I'm sorry.
definitely. I definitely am growing my team. I'm looking to continue to expand, grow my network, grow my team. You can reach out to me at my email, my personal email, Taiwan Huey. My name's right here.
Send me, yeah, Taiwan. Please go ahead.
Taiwan Huey one, the number one at gmail.com.
Okay, and we'll put it also on the minute or the minutes the meeting. I mean, when we putting the video, when we stream the video. So you're looking for people that think and act like you. I'm sure.
I want you to bring your own experience, your own personality, but also I do want you to be aligned with the goal that I am visioning and growing my company to. And you have to be willing to have fun and also work under a young founder. I may be leading people who are way older than me, but just knowing how to manage that and just know respect is given. So I'll give you respect, give me respect, and like that. So if
Yeah,
you
no,
collaborate, work, just make sure you reach out to me.
you brought a definitely a challenge for people that are used to hierarchical management. So, certain age, it's a certain position on the org chart in large companies. But I'll tell you something, there are many people with IoT experience
Mhm.
that come from the telecom industry.
Mhm.
The telecom industry supports the IoT from a infrastructure viewpoint, connectivity and so on. So join a telecom or two groups on LinkedIn.
I will.
You may find people with a lot of experience, maybe of them more like retired than, coming out of university with an IoT skill set.
They're
But
still
they can
welcome.
help you. They can help you actually. On a final note, I went to a number of logistics shows, and in one of them was this cold chain, and they're having devices that communicate with the through the satellites. They'll communicate with the ground base
Mhm.
to actually communicate the temperature, monitor the temperature, so you know if it's a problem with the container as it comes to the port, and so on. So I've seen this technology at work. It exists.
Yes.
Well, Taiwan, I want to really help you. Thank you for your help and for your understanding on the actionable ESG. I'll take a second to say proper goodbye. I would like to thank you for taking the time to visit with us today. For our audience, I want you to make sure that you tune in every week for a new episode of Actionable ESG by AKFI. You'll gain new perspective as you gain today on how to mitigate risks and create value by integrating ESG and digital transformation. Until next week, goodbye from Manuel and Taiwan. Thank you.
Thank you.